When my daughter-in-law told me I wasn't welcome at Christmas, I smiled, hung up the phone, and by the new year, I had started the process of repossessing her life. And that was just the beginning of my plan. Justice must be restored, and arrogance must be punished. The call came on a Tuesday. The kind of gray December afternoon that makes you want to curl up with a cup of tea. Olivia's voice was like ice chips in a crystal glass, smooth and cold. "Jessica, we need to talk about the holidays." "Of course. Dear, I was just looking at recipes for my maple-glazed sweet potatoes." "That's sweet." "But that's the thing. Daniel and I are curating a very specific vibe this year. It's crucial for the brand." I paused, the pen hovering over the recipe card. "A specific vibe. We're creating a lot of holiday content, and the whole aesthetic needs to be seamless, cohesive." The silence stretched, and I felt a familiar chill creep up my spine. "And where do I fit into this cohesive aesthetic?" I asked. Another pause. This one sharper. "Look, Jessica, how do I put this? Your personal brand. It's a little traditional. It's just not quite aligned with the minimalist luxury lifestyle content we're creating." The words hung in the air, clinical and brutal. I was being uninvited from my son's Christmas because my personal brand didn't match his wife's Instagram feed. I was a content problem, a style guide violation. Daniel got on the line then, his voice a miserable mumble. "Mom, it's just easier this way. You understand? Her parents are coming, and it's a whole thing." I didn't understand. I understood nothing except the sharp, physical pain in my chest. I ended the call quietly and drove home, the windshield wipers keeping a steady, mournful rhythm against the drizzle. As the miles passed, the numbers started rolling through my head. The $60,000 for the down payment on their house, taken from my husband's life insurance policy. The $4,500 I transferred every single month to cover the mortgage and their bills. The $24,000 for the kitchen renovation because Olivia needed a content creation-friendly space. The designer clothes. The vacations. The car. It all added up. $350,000. Every last cent I had in the world, poured into their perfectly curated, fabricated life. My love. My sacrifice. My grief for my late husband. It had all been monetized. And now it was being discarded because I didn't match the new color palette. The engine hummed as I pulled into my own driveway. The quiet street, a world away from their influencer fantasy. And in that quiet, a cold, hard anger began to bloom. I walked into my empty house, the silence amplifying the echo of Olivia's words. For a moment, I let the self-doubt wash over me. Was I the problem? Had I become the meddling? Out of touch, mother-in-law from a bad sitcom, I called my sister, Linda, hoping for perspective. "Oh, honey, that's awful," she said, her voice dripping with sympathy. "But you know how this new generation is? It's all about appearances. Just let it go. They'll come around. Let it go." The advice felt like a pat on the head, a dismissal of the profound insult and the years of financial bleeding. It made me feel even more alone, like I was screaming into a void. Then, my phone rang with an unknown number. I almost ignored it. But on the fourth ring, I picked up. "Hello, Crisp." Intelligent voice I hadn't heard in 6 years answered. "Jessica, it's Emily Carter, Danielle's ex-wife. The woman he'd left for Olivia." I was so stunned I couldn't speak. Emily. "Hello." She didn't waste time with pleasantries. "I heard what happened. My cousin is friends with one of Olivia's brand partners. I'm not surprised, but I am absolutely furious on your behalf." The validation in her voice was like a drink of water in a desert. Someone else saw it. I wasn't crazy. I saw this coming years ago. "Jessica," she continued, her tone shifting from empathetic to professional. "When I was still with Daniel, Olivia was already mapping out how to leverage your generosity. I'm a financial analyst. Remember, I see patterns. Her business plan always had a line item for parental investment. And you were it. I tried to warn him, but he was blinded by her ambition. Her words cut through my fog of hurt and confusion. She wasn't just offering sympathy, she was offering data. You have to stop thinking of yourself as a wounded mother. Jessica, Emily said, her voice hardening with purpose. You are an angel investor in a failing startup run by a con artist, and your investment has been grossly mismanaged. It's time for a forensic audit. Audit. The word landed with the force of a gavel. It was a plan. A strategy. It transformed my pain into a clear objective. In the space of a 10-minute phone call, Emily Carter had given me back my spine. I was no longer a victim of their cruelty. I was a majority shareholder. And I was about to stage a hostile takeover. My first move, guided by Emily's calm logic, was brutally simple. I logged into my online banking portal, my hands steady on the keyboard. I navigated to the recurring payments tab and found the entry $4,500, scheduled to transfer to Daniel and Olivia's joint account on the 15th of the month, for 60 straight months. That payment had left my account without fail. It was the foundation upon which their entire fantasy life was built. I clicked the box next to it and then the button that read, Cancel Payment. A confirmation window popped up. Are you sure you want to cancel this scheduled transfer for the first time in 5 years? The answer was yes. I felt a profound sense of release, as if a heavy chain had just fallen from my shoulders. For 2 days, there was only silence from their end. They hadn't noticed yet. Then, on the 3rd day, my phone rang. It was Olivia. Her voice was pure syrup. Jessica, darling, I have the most wonderful opportunity for you. I braced myself. The syrupy tone always preceded a request. My parents, Robert and Jennifer, are flying in for the holidays, and I was hoping you could do me a huge favor. I knew her parents. Stuffy, condescending people who looked at me like I was the hired help. What did you have in mind? I asked. Well, we're shooting a whole series for my followers on authentic family moments. And I had this brilliant idea. We need someone to pick them up from the airport. And you, with your classic old car, it's just the perfect rustic chic vibe we're going for. It will read as so genuine and down to earth. The audacity was breathtaking. I wasn't good enough to share a meal with her parents at the actual Christmas dinner table, but I was the perfect aesthetic choice to be their chauffeur. I was a prop, a character in her carefully scripted reality show. The insult was so profound, so utterly lacking in self-awareness, that it was a gift. She was handing me the rope. Of course, Olivia, I said, my voice a mask of pleasant cooperation. I would be happy to help. It sounds lovely. I could practically hear her smiling through the phone, pleased with how easily her problem was solved. Wonderful. I knew I could count on you. I'll text you their flight details. Oh, and try to wear something simple. We don't want it to look staged. Don't worry, I said, looking at the cancellation confirmation still on my computer screen. I'll take care of everything. At 2:15 in the afternoon, on the day of her parents' arrival, I was not navigating airport traffic. I was settled in a quiet corner of a downtown coffee shop. A steaming latte at me elbow. Across the table, Emily Carter watched as I turned my phone face down. It had just started buzzing with a text from Olivia. Where are you? My parents landed 20 minutes ago. This coffee shop was our war room. Between us, my laptop was open, displaying 2 windows side by side. On the left was Olivia's Instagram feed, a glittering, curated monument to a life of effortless luxury. On the right were my bank statements, a stark, black and white ledger of my sacrifice. We worked with the methodical precision of surgeons. Okay, find the post from last May, Emily said. The one with the Cartier bracelet. I scrolled back. There it was, Olivia's wrist, adorned with a $7,000 piece of jewelry. The caption read, "Finally treated myself. Hard work and dedication truly pay off. Feeling so blessed. Number, girl boss number, earned not given." Emily pointed to my bank statement from the same week. I highlighted the line item, a transfer of $7,500. With the memo line reading, "Happy anniversary, Liv." We took a screenshot, placing the boastful post and the quiet transaction together in a single image. The truth, in digital form. We did it again. And again. A post from September showed their gleaming new espresso machine. Olivia thanked the brand profusely for the generous partnership. We paired it with the screenshot of my $900 transfer from the day before, labeled kitchen stuff. A post from February featured them on a ski lift in Aspen, with hashtags about a sponsored winter getaway. We placed it next to the record of my $3,000 transfer for their vacation fund. With every matched pair, the evidence mounted, creating an undeniable chapter and verse account of their fraud. It was a digital paper trail built from her own narcissism and my quiet love. My phone was now buzzing itself across the table with increasingly frantic texts and missed calls from Olivia, her mother, and an unknown number that was surely her father. I finally picked it up and hit the silence switch. They were stranded. They were furious. And I was busy building the weapon that would dismantle their entire world. Pixel by Fraudulent Pixel. The retaliation was faster and more vicious than I could have imagined. They didn't just get a taxi from the airport, they got revenge. 3 days later, Emily forwarded me a link to a prominent Denver society blog. The headline felt like a punch to the gut. Family Feud turns nasty local matriarch's jealous campaign against son's success. The article was a masterpiece of public shaming. It quoted several sources, close to the family, who painted me as a bitter, controlling mother-in-law, consumed with jealousy over her son's wonderful new life. It framed my refusal to be their chauffeur as an act of petty vengeance, a symptom of my increasingly erratic behavior. Olivia's father, Robert Vance, with his network of business contacts, had orchestrated a professional hit job on my reputation. For the first time, a sliver of fear pierced my resolve. They were playing a different game, one with public consequences. I was just a retired woman. He was a man with influence. The world would believe him, not me. That evening, Emily called, and the fury in her voice burned through the phone. "Jessica, I found something. It's bad. It's worse than the blog." She explained she'd been digging into Olivia's brand partnerships, using a contact of hers to get a look at the pitches Olivia had sent to potential sponsors. To secure these deals, she has to demonstrate financial stability. She's been submitting her financial statements. Emily took a deep breath. And she has categorized every dollar you have ever given her, all $350,000, as a formal, structured business loan from a private investor. My blood ran cold. A loan. The word was a desecration. It stripped away all the love, all the sacrifice, and replaced it with a cold, sterile transaction. "It gets worse," Emily said, her voice tight with rage. "She's provided documents that show she is making regular monthly repayments on this loan. She's using your gifts as fraudulent proof of her creditworthiness and business acumen. Jessica, this isn't just a lie. This is wire fraud. It's a federal crime." That was it. The final straw. The last ember of my hesitation was extinguished, replaced by a cold, burning certainty. They hadn't just taken my money and discarded my love. They had twisted it, perverted it into a criminal enterprise to fuel their greed. This was no longer a family dispute. It was a battle for the truth. And I was done playing defense. My victory wouldn't just be emotional, it would be absolute. Christmas Eve arrived, cold and clear. Their house in the suburbs glowed with professionally installed lights, a beacon for the city's influencer class. I walked through the front door at 7 o'clock, dressed not in the simple clothes Olivia had requested for her airport stunt, but in a sharp, elegant pantsuit that radiated authority. The party was in full swing. In the center of the living room, Olivia stood with her phone held high, live streaming to her thousands of followers. "We are just so grateful for our incredible community," she gushed, panning the phone across the room of brand partners and social climbers. Perfect timing. I carried a small, leather portfolio. Inside were 12 beautifully printed folios, each one on heavy cream-colored cardstock, tied with a single black silk ribbon. I began to move through the room, my steps calm and deliberate. I handed one to Olivia's father, Robert, one to her mother, Jennifer, one to each of the key brand representatives in attendance. A little Christmas gift, I said, my voice clear and carrying easily through the festive chatter. From the family's primary investor, confused murmurs rippled through the crowd as they untied the ribbons and opened the folios. Inside, there was no holiday greeting. There was only the evidence. Page 1, Olivia's Instagram post about her earned designer bracelet, right next to the screenshot of my $7,500 bank transfer. Page 2, the sponsored espresso machine next to my $900 receipt. Page after page. The digital paper trail laid their lies bare. The final page was a copy of the fraudulent loan documentation Olivia had submitted to her sponsors, with the words, "Wire fraud is a federal offense," highlighted in red. The room fell utterly silent. The only sound was the rustle of paper. I watched as the faces of the guests shifted from confusion to shock, then to disgust. On the live stream, Olivia's smile froze, then crumbled as she saw the CEO of her biggest brand partner staring at the papers in his hand. His expression one of cold fury. Her perfectly curated world was imploding. In real time. On a live broadcast. Months later. My life is my own. The blog issued a full retraction and an apology. Olivia's sponsor dropped her overnight. The house, which they could no longer afford, went into foreclosure. Daniel and Olivia separated. He called me last week from his new, much smaller apartment. He's in therapy. He is ashamed, he asked, his voice cracking. If we could start over? I told him we could try, but the terms had changed. My love and support were no longer commodities to be leveraged. Our new relationship would be built on respect and honesty, or it wouldn't.